Hello and welcome to Two Girls in a Pod. I'm Sharon.
I'm Christy.
Hope all of you are doing well on this kind of rainy day in Colorado Springs.
At least not as gloomy as yesterday.
That's true, and the temperature's a little warmer.
Yes.
I don't know, this thing is going from 70s to 40s. It's messing with me.
If you're not familiar with Colorado Springs and the spring season, it's so psychotic. It has identity crisis and goes back into winter, and then you never know what to expect.
So hopefully where you guys are, the weather is pleasant and all is going well for you.
Yeah. But we were talking about how that sometimes things can come up and we forget because it seems like something so, crucial and impactful and things can happen. But it seems like that we forget that sometimes things that come up and happen, it's always a temporary situation. And that even though something may be happening right now that is unpleasant or that this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
So just, remembering that this is a moment in time.
And I think that's something, because we talk about this is our journey too, and our journey of understanding that when we have those things that kind of come out of the blue and you're there, it kind of throws you off kilter just a little bit. But to realize that we're learning that we have to just breathe and move through it. And you made a really good comment earlier. You said that oftentimes when these things happen, we feel like we have to fix something.
Yeah. I think it's automatic with people. We go to, for one thing, we hopefully want to be helpful, whatever the situation is, we want to make it better. And so I think that sometimes we get so fixated on that, then it creates this feeling of anxiety or that because maybe it's something that's out of our control. But it's like we get so fixated on it and think that there's something that we can do to circumvent something from happening, but it's not always the case.
Well, I think the key thing in that too is that when we realize that this too shall pass, that we forget that when we are trying to fix something or we're trying to do this or manipulate it or control it, we often sustain it. So we stay stuck longer than we have to sometimes in things because we feel like we're supposed to have an action or a reaction to stuff. And oftentimes we don't. It's just life happening and life's going to happen, and realizing that it's outside of our control. And what do we learn from it?
Exactly. And I think that you learn as you go along is that it's always our reaction to things that can make things worse or better. I think that we have to focus on that. We have to realize that that is our superpower, is being able to remain calm in those situations and realize, because we're going to have emotion around different things that happen, and that's okay. But learning to breathe and let go of it and understand that we have to make space for it.
Well, and I think the other thing that's interesting is that when we do that, we're actually honoring whatever's happening and understanding that things are always going to be outside of our control. But when you are able to master that, it's outside of your control, there is a sense of peace. And so when those things do happen, it's still impactful, but you almost feel more powerful because you realize this is just a moment in time, and that all of the moments build on each other. But it's, what do I focus on? Which moment? Because at the end of the day, we all decide, each and every one of us decides what moment we're going to put our thought and our energy to.
What energy are we going to fixate on, and think, because we can blow something completely out of proportion too when we would get so fixated like that. It's not that it's not an event that, isn't having an impact. Yeah. But it's, I think that sometimes that we do a disservice to ourselves by fixating on a problem so much and not realizing that it's okay to just breathe through it and realize that we don't have that control.
And I think that's the biggest thing is, I think if we get to that place and we start and we do even a little bit of reflection, And we'll do that too, and even if we're having something, we'll ask each other, is this the end of the world? Is this catastrophic? And more time, the answer is a big fat no.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, then why am I making it catastrophic?
Well,
and that's not to dismiss the feeling.
mm-hmm.
I don't want people to misunderstand. It's not to say that when bad things happen or when those monumental things happen, that we're not going to have a strong emotional reaction to them.
Mm-hmm.
Honor, that's what we're saying. You honor that emotional reaction, but we get stuck when we're trying to fix something that we can't control, because if we can't control it, we cannot fix it.
Mm-hmm. And then we just make ourselves more miserable.
Yes.
And oftentimes, most of the time, I feel like it's because we're trying to change someone else's behavior or something like that. We're trying to take that on.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times it is out of care and concern. We don't want that person hurt. But in the end, we don't get to make those decisions.
We don't get to fix other people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is at that place. And I think that's one of the most, for me, to realize that, when people tell me, well, you got to do this or this is, they're like, I don't get to do any of that. I'm an invited guest on everybody's journey. I'm an invited guest on everybody's journey. And my job is to be there with them wherever they're at.
Well, yeah, and to help them think differently about a situation, for them to be able to see it more clearly and to make better decisions and things like that.
And truly to help them understand this is but a moment in time.
Yes.
Our life is made up of specks of that moment. Those moments are specks, and then those specks become the tapestry of our life and everything. But at the end of the day, they're all just specks. And, we will tend to make one speck bigger than the other speck.
Well, we can let ourselves get completely absorbed in overthinking things. We were actually even talking about that as well this morning. When you become so absorbed in those thoughts, and a lot of times there's a lot of faulty thinking in it, you lose track of the moment. And without that, there's no peace.
And I think too, when something tragic happens, whether it's a loss, or it could be a loss of a job, a loss of somebody, it could be a human loss, could be a financial loss, any loss. Mm-hmm. We're just lose loss. In the moment of the loss, we don't have clarity, and we shouldn't have clarity, because to be present in that moment is to feel that emotion, whatever that is. But it's also to realize, and always, if you start thinking this way, it's kind of like when you practice, you teach a kid to dial 911, you hope that you never have to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But when they do, they know how to dial 911.
Right.
It's the same thing. When you start practicing these things and you do it, reminding yourself, everything's a moment in time. It's a moment in time.
Yeah.
And when you start doing that, then that piece of information stays with us. And then I think we can then navigate those losses more in a more healthy way.
Well, yeah.
And not get stuck.
Exactly. I think that we define them and put them more in their place. They're become more manageable. It's not completely disproportionate to our lives, and understanding that, like you said, it's only a moment in time, and that we can learn and grow and understand that it's our reaction to those things and how we accept it.
And it is. And I think you did because when we talk, one of the things you do is you have a very beautiful way of describing things. Yeah. And particularly emotion. And I remember even with the passing of your dad, that was such a hard thing for you, because it was really the most significant loss you'd had.
Yeah.
Even though you had grandparents and that, but that was really significant for you. And I think you did it beautifully, because you said it's like you could see, but you couldn't see, like there's a veil. And then when it passes, it's kind of like everything becomes brighter and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the things is realizing or having people around you who realize, even in that, for you, under like, we've gone from grief and loss into something else, because you were holding on to that, and you would talk a lot about the loss, and you were stuck in the loss.
Yeah.
So when you were stuck in the loss, you couldn't even appreciate the life,
right,
or the lessons or anything. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. And so what I'm saying is that is normal for us to have that time. But it's when it goes past a certain time, then it goes into something else when we're sustaining. And I'm talking as a therapist here. Mm-hmm. So when people come in and I'm looking at how long have you been doing this? What are some of those same behaviors and all that? Then we've gone now into more of a depression or something that becomes much more extended. And I think that realizing that and having those people that surround you that are there like, I'm looking at you like, no, you need some medication, lady. That medication therapist do something.
Yeah.
But
And even like with that, a lot of people don't realize, I mean, that sometimes with the medications, it's just a temporary thing, even to be able to help you past a certain point, to be able to kind of get some clarity. And then a lot of times not even have to stay on them. I mean, I know that that happens.
well, and I think, when we fast forward in this evolution and in this journey we've been on, is with the passing of your mom, it's very different how you see things. And even for me with the passing of my parents, same thing. As you start to evolve and you just start to see things differently, and you start to, if I view their passing as that moment in time, granted a very horrible moment in time, I'm not going to sit there and, no, it was been devastating.
Mhm.
But once I could get to that place of their death was the moment, but it didn't take away all of those other, because you get so wrapped up in it, it's almost like that almost becomes your thought. It just keeps going in the loss, the loss, the loss. And we're not even just talking about with people.
Mhm. But that can become your whole identity at that point, and then you're just a tortured soul.
Yes. And like I said, not just with the death of somebody, but even the loss of a job, people will hold on to that. They get angry. And that's why when we see these people who go back in and do harmful things after they lose a job, not understanding that was just a brief moment. It is not our identity, but we perpetuate this, I think, in society that somehow our job is our identity. If you're married, that's your identity. Whatever those moments are, you become that identity. And then it's like somebody comes and takes that identity, and it was a creation. We're more than what we do, but
Or who we're with, because it can be the end of
yes.
a relationship even.
Yes, and people go into funks and do all of this. And the thing I always tell my clients is we have this amazing, wonderful capacity to love. If we allow ourselves, we will love again. We will love fully. We will all that is something that I believe each human being has, is that strong capacity to love.
And that being one of the strongest and most wonderful, I feel like, vibration.
Absolutely.
That frequency of being on the frequency of love. I mean, you figure that that is what endures. The love existed prior to, say, if it is a death, the love existed before and it exists long after they're gone.
Absolutely.
So that force within itself, that peace, when that becomes the focus, I think that that changes a lot.
And I agree. And I think that's what we're talking about today, is how do we remember in those moments of crisis or loss or whatever it is, that it's a moment in time and that it'll pass, but it has significance. And I tell people everything that we've experienced has some type of significance, but it doesn't mean that we have to we take it for what it is in those moments. What did I learn from it? How did I grow from it? What do I have to change? Or what do I find I want to keep the same? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
And what do I want other people to know? So even like I keep going back to death, I think, because, I mean, it has been recent since mom passed and that. And I think that if we look at, like I said, focusing on the love, we're not dishonoring that person by making that our focus rather than the loss itself. What do I want other people in the world to know about this person? My devastation over their loss, or the person that I loved? What is it I want to communicate to others? And I think if we can focus on things like that, it helps.
Well, I agree. And that's a really good point, because, people are going to already know the loss, but when we keep talking about the loss, and I always think this is funny or interesting, is in our society, what we teach is that, so if you went and got a huge promotion or something like that, you celebrate it once, and then you don't go sit there and celebrate, oh my God, I got a promotion. After a certain, it just stops. But yet we will talk about, oh my God, I had a shitty supervisor, and on and on and on. And we'll keep talking about that. But we're taught in this society, and how, I don't know, whatever, but to focus on that negative crap that's going on.
Yeah.
We are not pushing people or talking to people about the relevance and the importance of those really positive things that go on in our lives.
Yeah.
We don't do that. It's one and done. Oh, you got a promotion? Good girl.
Mm-hmm.
Next. Oh my goodness, this happened to you. Oh my. And I get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes the person who had the promotion may have as much anxiety or emotion because I'm going into something new. What if I don't do well? I mean, all sorts of weird headspace stuff goes on. So it's one of those things. And if we could just shift our focus just a little bit, first off, if we could shift our focus and we could do this, and I always tell my clients, if you guys can do this, it'll put me out of a job. But you know what? I'd be okay being unemployed from that. I really would, because at the end of the day, I want my clients to be healthy. I want them to be in a really healthy space.
Yeah.
Family and friends, same thing. Be in the healthy space. How do we not stay focused on the negative stuff that's going on?
And I really think that one of the ways that we do that is shift our focus to gratitude.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you start shifting your focus to what it is that you have, the abundance that's already readily available in your life, because there are things, there's always something that you can find to be grateful for. And I think that once you start shifting your focus to that, it makes it feel so much different. It's going to change your mood.
And understanding it's not minimizing whatever happened.
No.
It isn't. What it is sometimes it's honoring instead of minimizing. Because I think sometimes when we are so focused, and I'll use that again, if we're so focused on the loss of somebody, we're not focused on why is this loss significant to me? Because this person taught me this, or we did this, and we shared this, and we did. Do you see what I mean? And I always tell people, to me, one of the most tragic things is when people die twice, and people say, you can't die twice. And I say, yeah, you can. I said, because when somebody passes away, their body's gone. We can't do anything about that. I said, but when we don't talk about them, when we don't keep them relevant, if they were relevant in life, they should be relevant still. And once again, that's my philosophy. It's one of those things that I really feel my family does well at. Mm-hmm. You never met my brother, because he had passed away long before I met you, but you know my brother. And I think that's the thing. He was relevant and important to me. And I wanted you to know how relevant and important. But I talked about what that loss was, because that was my first sibling I had ever lost. It was so my immediate nuclear family. So it was very devastating for our family when we lost him. So I'll talk about that, but I also talk to you because, oh my God, just because of how he was in life, he was a prankster.
Exactly. I think that's always the perfect example that I think of too, because you're right. I never met him, but I do feel like that I have heard a lot about him and know him through you guys. So of course, I already knew of the loss. Yes, it was impactful for all of you, but to know who he is, guys had to share those stories with me in that. And I really think that that's really cool, because I didn't get to meet him. It's really neat for me to be able to know him through you guys.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. There's devastation in our losses, but to be able to share those experiences and to keep that person relevant, and my brother died many years ago and he's still relevant.
Yeah.
The people that we love, they're still relevant. We talk about them, we keep them relevant. And I think that's what it is. But if I'm so wrapped up in the loss, it's hard for me to keep them relevant. The only thing that remains relevant is the loss.
Yeah.
This is not to be disrespectful of people in grief and loss. I do a lot of grief and loss work. It is to be okay and to realize that it's a moment in time and that they can be very devastating moments in time, but it's our thing. But I'm going to say, if you're going to make that moment in time, the loss of somebody or the loss of a job or that relevant, make all those positive things that's relevant too. At least let's do some canceling out of them. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we're saying in order to live our best, most healthy life, we have to be in a place of gratitude, I think, because then we forget. It's like we don't appreciate what we have. And I think that's the other thing about when you're talking about those positive things, we sometimes give such small pause to them. You know what I mean? We're constantly trying to get to the next positive thing, the next positive thing. And we're not having gratitude in those moments, even for those little small things that are relevant and need that moment as well.
Well, I think it makes us blind to things that are right in front of us. Like I was saying, even the end of a relationship. I mean, if you are stuck with the end of that relationship and that's all you're fixated on, you're not going to see when anybody else comes along either. I mean, it's not healthy to stay in that mindset of that loss or lack of.
Well, and also the thing is that this is where we really start to get in the way of ourselves. When we are doing this and we're so fixated on whatever it is, what happens is we don't get to see opportunity. We don't get to see solution. We just don't. That becomes that mental block that we have.
Yeah.
And so it's important to remember that everything is relevant, but it is also fleeting. Because it's even like we were talking the other day about your mom had the twins here. We were talking about the holidays and stuff like that. We were really grateful that we had them for the holiday. I remember asking them one day what they remembered about the holidays with us in particular. It was all the travel. It wasn't the gifts. It was that experience. And I'm so grateful we had the opportunity to show them the East Coast and the West Coast, the ocean on both ends, and those moments and just how fun it was. And even to watch their evolution.
Yeah.
From the East Coast, which was the brave one.
Yeah. And then we go to the West Coast.
And then it flipped. Maybe it's a twin thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Having gratitude for that. You know what I mean? Because we could have sat there and focused on, them not being around us anymore, which that was a positive too. But you get used to people and things and stuff like that. Those were more relevant moments than the gifts they got, which taught me something.
Yeah,
it really did. It taught me that. And so we've switched a lot of our stuff to experiences versus buying stuff or doing things like that.
Yeah.
Even the experience, that's why we like to share them. Our love of travel. We like to share our love of travel. We don't just go travel and then never talk about it again.
Exactly.
We don't sit there and say, oh yeah, we're there. That's done. Go on to, no, it's sharing those experiences, but it's also knowing that travel or whatever, those are still moments in time, but I choose what moment I bring forward. I choose that. Each and every one of us chooses that.
Right.
What I want to bring forward, what I want to talk about, what I want to have gratitude about, what I want to have sadness about. That's still internally to me. Nobody else can do that for me. I do that.
What energy do you want to feed?
Yes. And I think, the whole thing of that energy we feed is really what it's about. Looking back and thinking about all the wonderful, wonderful moments in time that we have had. We have more wonderful moments in time than we do negative, really.
Yeah. I was recently going through pictures, getting ready for my mom's service and that, and looking at old pictures. And I was going through and that's like I was sharing with you that I am so grateful for all of the love I have known in my life. And when I look at the pictures, down through the years and that, just all the people that contributed to that, I am so grateful for that.
That is so cool about pictures and stuff because you can bring those moments back. The moment passed, but we have this reminder. And, we have our memory. The memories come and go, no?
Yeah.
Or so people say.
Well, they do, because I look through the pictures and I go, wow, there was so many moments there that I don't even remember, but here they are.
Well, and I think that's what's really cool too, is just having those photos sometimes. And we'll do that. We were looking for your photos for your mom's memorial thing. And so you're looking on and they're like, oh my God, that we did. Oh my God. And then what is really cool is it has that ability to take you back to that moment and feel that experience. It's like, oh, kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that just realizing though, now we can just document our moments a little bit better than, back in the day. I guess you could throw it on a piece of bedrock and call it good.
Weren't you talking about that? How you didn't have any pictures? And I said, what, yours are etched on a rock somewhere?
She treats me so bad. But yeah, but I think that's what's really cool is because sometimes, our memories, because we have so many of them, photos can help jar that again. And sometimes we just have a feel and sometimes we go back to the feel and stuff. But it's kind of just a neat, if you actually sit down and think of how many moments you've had, we don't even count that high. You know what I'm saying? Because they're happening all the time. This becomes a moment. And then in a year, if we're talking and say, well, did we do an episode on that? I don't know, but we can go back and look because, we're over 100 episodes. We can't remember all that, but there are these things. But if I want, I can go back, listen. Oh, this is what was going on at that time. Or, we have those little reminders. And I guess the thing is because everything's a moment in time and they're all just little specks that build up to, like I said, create this amazing tapestry of our lives. To sometimes we go back and we revisit them and we revisit those sad moments as well. But then realizing my job is to create more moments. That's what we do. It's how do I create more moments?
How do I be the best I can be going forward, to create memorable, meaningful moments with the people that I love.
One of the things is even when I'm doing couples counseling, parent-child, this doesn't matter. But when there's more than one person involved and they're fighting it out, so I'll ask them, how relevant is this going to be next week? And they'll stop. Well, I don't know. It's not. Or else they'll come in and well, we had an argument last week. And and I was, okay, but what is it about? I don't remember. Well, then it wasn't relevant. That's how it is.
But when I fixated on it, it felt ugly.
Yes, it was so bad that day. But that's the thing. And sometimes we go back and we revisit because we're trying to learn how we're going to handle something differently.
Yeah.
But it's not to fixate on the moment. It's to what can we learn from the moment and how do we change the outcome the next time if there's a next time. And usually with couples, there's always a next time.
It's not to stay and simmer in it.
Exactly. That's what I really work with my clients on is this is a moment. Create your moments. Be in control of your moments.
Feel the emotion, but then be able, to breathe and let it go.
Yes. Hold space for it. And for some, it's longer than the other. There's not a time period we're talking about here, but it's having gratitude for those moments. We can't sit there and even like with death or the end of relationships, we can't think that's the most horrible thing because without the death, we didn't have the life. We didn't have the experience. Without the end of a relationship, in every relationship. And, I always say my previous relationship, yes, I did have one prior to her. We were together for about 10 years. And I don't sit there and, this, I don't talk negative about my past relationship. I will talk about what did I learn? What was the growth from it?
Yeah.
Because I never wanted to be and stay angry or all of those things. I really did just want both of us to go on and have a good life. And I think we did, and it's okay.
And I think that's one of the hardest things for people to accept too, is that it is our choice, whether to hang on to something or to let it go. And that's really hard for people to accept, I think.
And I think that's the thing, when I tell people when they're in relationships and it's maybe coming to an end for whatever reason, I said, there's never a reason to be mean about it. You guys are grown adults. Decide, what, let's just go our separate ways. But it's almost like, once again, this taught thing of, I have to make it bad in order to leave it. No, you don't. As an adult, freaking leave it. If it's not meeting your needs or fulfilling whatever that is, you don't. And I always tell people, don't be mean. You do not have to be mean at the end of your relationships. I have done this job a long time and I have seen some real ugly, and I'm there like, why, what is the purpose of this? But it's because they want to justify why they're leaving, not for themselves, but for everybody who's looking, the people watching. Our thoughts and our feelings are ours. And it doesn't matter who's watching. It's realizing that I'm in control of that and doing it with some grace and gratitude for whatever it is you get to walk away from these situations with. That makes you a better human being.
Right.
So hopefully this will give you guys a little bit of time to reflect and think, and like, am I focusing more on those negatives or positives? what do you want to do? Do you want to realize that everything's just a moment in time and those moments will pass? And every once in a while, we go back to those moments that feel good. And especially if it's the loss of somebody, and we kind of pull them in and we hold them tight to us, and it feels good. And absolutely do that.
Right.
And it's okay, even in those moments, whether it's a year or 5 years or whatever, if we've had a loss, to still have that moment where we're sad about the loss. Absolutely. That's okay. But having gratitude is such an important thing. And just to remember, you control what speck in time, what moment in time you're going to hold on to, and you're going to let the world see and know, and yourself internally,
what you're going to amplify.
Yeah. So hopefully when you go back, you're going to start looking at a lot more of those positive things and embracing them and just having gratitude for them.
Yes. And remembering this too shall pass.
Yes.
It's only a moment in time. So hopefully you've heard something that you like today. You can always find us at twogirlsinapod.com. And you can also listen to us on wherever you get your podcasts. Please check us out on Adventures of Two Girls in a Pod Life's Journey on YouTube. We have different things on there, some different shorts and things like that. We'd love for you to check them out. Please subscribe and give us some feedback. We're also on Facebook and Instagram under Two Girls in a Pod Life's Journey.
We appreciate all of you. Everybody knows how this works, and if you don't, you got to have the likes, you have to have the shares, you have to have the subscribers, all of those things. We appreciate them too. And we're grateful for each and every one of you that does do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will be back next week, and we hope that you guys have a great week and take time to go back and look at those little moments in time and embrace them if they make you feel good, and if they make you feel sad, that too, it's all okay. Just remembering that we're put here to live and create more and more and more moments.
Yes.
So anyway, you guys have a fantastic week.
Stay positive.
Yeah, we will be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.